Hi, screen viewer. Do you ever feel like you need to get away from it all? Like, all of it? The chaos, the divisiveness, and overstimulation? You know, everything going on everywhere? Being in the world and on the internet as we are, it's hard not to notice a kind of societal shift that's occurred over the last chunk of years. I mean, society is constantly shifting itself, but this has felt different, scarier, more urgent, and seemingly insurmountable than anything I've ever experienced as a 27-year-old only just moving out of my parents' house. And unfortunately, I think we're on the brink of even more stink. So what's smelling today? Well, the wealth gap's nearing Great Depression levels, capitalism's finally eating itself to death, racism is ruining everything as usual, trans people are the current scapegoat of the week, and we're bearing witness to the first ever live stream genocide that's also just being allowed to happen? So I'd say the physical world isn't doing too hot. Except it is because climate change! Hey, get back! Get back on her! And since the horrors never relent, what used to be our escape from all this, the digital world, is melting into some kind of algorithmically generated authoritarian sludge hole. Big tech's become hellbent on isolating us and fostering a toxic dependence on its services, which only further entangle us in their web. A web where puritanical payment processors won't even let us play our toxic yaoi games. It's no wonder mental health has continued to worsen. Gen Z is apparently the loneliest generation yet. So that's fun. But hey, now that I've submitted all my bodily fluids and verified my age to Google, I can solve that problem easily with this AI-powered hamster. What can't money buy? Are you my AI hamster? If I have to be. In the midst of all this, in the flickering light of a world on fire, when's the last time you made something? Like, when was the last time you genuinely shared a part of yourself with another person or a group of people? When's the last time you were vulnerable like that, or even had the energy to be? I've been in a bit of a creative rut for the past, long time. Usually when I make a video like this, it'll be about whatever the heck my mind's been stuck on lately, provided I think it's good material. I don't want to pretend to be super interested in something that I'm really not, or to be dependent on escaping into my nostalgia where problems felt smaller just so I can keep pumping out videos. That's not why I do what I do. But trying to ignore the existential elephant in the room has become increasingly challenging for me in today's landscape. Because when you genuinely care about anything going on, you can't just flip a switch and stop. How can I muster up a rat's ass to give to anything else when I'm worried about very real problems and wondering how I can help make a difference? Getting up on a platform and just spouting my opinions as if I'm some sort of main character doesn't feel like I'm actually helping. It just feels vaguely narcissistic. I guess what I'm experiencing can be summed up as feeling directionless and discouraged. Like, what am I even doing? Is making videos or any kind of art worth anything right now? If I'm not like actively fighting and just talking about things I don't really think matter, am I just self-indulgently sticking my head in the sand when I make these? When I draw or post anything? Am I just helping to gaslight us all into thinking everything's fine? And like, I tried, okay? I was initially planning another video commenting on the state of AI and current technology, about how it's all very anti-human, but things in that world move so fast and I animate so slow, it just became overwhelming and I wound up scrapping the whole thing, lost on what to do next. I want to help people feel hopeful and inspired, but here I am feeling so much frustration and negativity, self-doubt and sourness. I can't have fun, I'm not smart enough to tackle things head on, my friends can't find jobs, and it's not rare to see comments from people feeling like their dreams just aren't possible anymore. Not even crazy dreams, just like being able to survive doing something you went to school for. I'm just tired, man. And I don't think I'm unique in these thoughts. I'm sure a lot of you watching can relate in some way, even if you're not politically conscious. Life is hard, and slipping into a paralyzing apathy isn't that unreasonable now. Why don't you just take a break, pal? I can't take a break! Don't you see what we're dealing with? Okay. I know I'm definitely giving a diagnosable display of doomerdom, but ultimately, I want to push back against that. So, the big question I'm asking today, and hopefully working to answer, is how can making things be important in a world like ours? Can being expressive, creative, and sharing our thoughts and experiences be more beneficial than we realize? In short, yes. In long, have you seen My Neighbor Totoro? I first watched Studio Ghibli's My Neighbor Totoro way back in 2020. I was on the verge of graduating from college with a bachelor's in digital media production. Big moneymaker right there. I didn't really learn much that I hadn't figured out from doing YouTube for years at that point, but I had generally enjoyed my college arc, even through the clinical depression subplot. But graduation was just a few months away when Corona hit the scene, effectively canceling the rest of my final semester and leaving my friends and I stuck inside our apartment house. You all know how that went. For the first 2 months, we effectively became alcoholic gamer hermits, spending most of our days fermenting in Animal Crossing until it became socially acceptable to inebriate ourselves again. At noon. Aside from binging anime and Avatar, we would occasionally spice things up and watch movies, new and old, including one Hayao Miyazaki's My Neighbor Totoro. I had seen some Ghibli films before, namely Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, but this was my first time watching Totoro, which basically follows the day-to-day life of a small family that recently moved into the Japanese countryside. The two children, Satsuki and her younger sister Mei, try to get used to their new home while they wait for their mother to be admitted from the hospital, and wind up befriending the forest spirit, Totoro, by screaming in his face. It's a nice movie where not that much happens, but the atmosphere is really cozy and cute. That's about all I took from it after my first watch. I mean, COVID was fresh, and at that point, the world Totoro invites us into didn't seem so distant. I was sure everything would be back to normal by the time summer rolled around. So, what's normal is gone forever, and we now live in a world effectively run by Twitter goons. AI's been grafted onto everything, and your grandma is asking what groiper means. The new norm ain't the same as the old norm. So some of my friends were watching Totoro in a VC one night, and I, needing a bit of a cozy escape from the world like I remembered, gladly joined them. But this time, everything hit different. Like Logan Paul and the colorblind glasses. I was noticing things that were invisible to me 5 years ago. Nestled in the intricately hand-painted backgrounds, flowing from the soundtrack, bursting from the frames and emanating from the characters, was a permeating sense of community and closeness. There was this feeling of being connected to the earth, to nature, and a sense of being a part of something bigger than yourself. Maybe the people in your town, maybe even more. Here in this small village, people aren't afraid of or trying to avoid their neighbors. They're not pretending like they don't exist. They're able to help each other out and know that they can count on it. In May of 2025, My Neighbor Totoro felt like something I had been missing in my life. It felt human. This movie was stirring up my insides and making me think that maybe part of the reason the world is as chaotic and divided as it is now is because, at large, we're lacking real human connection. Connection to the earth, to our lives, and to each other. Realizing all of this, in that moment, rocked back in my little IKEA chair, covered in Cheeto dust and probably drooling a little. It sucked ass! I was watching this movie to feel good, not to feel a deep sense of longing. If I wanted that, I would have watched The cat returns! Make me yours, Baron Humbert von Ginkadingadurgen. I think the worst part about it all, the part that really pissed me off, was knowing that a lot of what is portrayed in Totoro wasn't just conjured out of nothing. It was based on real places, real experiences, a real outlook on life that Miyazaki grew up with. And like, that means that somewhere along the way, this connection we could have had was lost. But how did we lose it? Why are we in this predicament, and where did Totoro go? Growing up, my parents always talked about how things were wildly different in America when they were kids. People went outside more, kids had more independence and third places to go, and nobody locked their doors. Which sounds crazy today, like, really? Anybody could just walk in, sitcom style? That's pretty dope, actually. I'm not saying it was all fine and dandy, but it feels like we've swung way too far in the opposite direction, and a lot of people today don't even know how to, like, be in a community anymore. It's everyone for themselves now, and the scary thing is, this didn't happen to us completely by accident. It's no secret that America, and a lot of the world, is exceedingly divided now. It's practically a buzzword how often it's been stated. You see it everywhere. Echo chambers, demonization of the other side, and a feeling that people live in completely different realities thanks to misinformation and algorithmic sorting of people into different tribes. I could get pretty deep into why and how we are where we are, but I would have to go history mode, and frankly, there are way better equipped people out there to educate you on all that stuff. Also, I'm lazy, and I don't want to animate all that, so I'll just try my best to boil everything down. The core reason people today are much more divided and individualistic than they were 40 to 50 plus years ago is pretty much because of money and power. Crazy, I know! 9 times out of 10, the answer to why companies and powerful people in general do shitty things is just because they want those two assets. It's so simple, it's kind of stupid, but sometimes cliches are pretty on the money. Why is social media and the news and the government dividing us? Because they're incentivized to, and they put aside the well-being of the world because of what they can gain. Divided people, even if they're not physically alone, are isolated people. And if you want to manipulate the world, well, isolated people are easy pickings. It's cult leader, abusive relationship logic, basically. Targeting the most vulnerable among us. More isolated people means more controllable people, means more profit or power, influence, or whatever the hell you want. When we feel alone or unfulfilled, we'll pretty much do anything to fill that void. And today's consumerist economy thrives on exploiting that. There's always another carrot on the stick or a self-described antidote to the poison we've been slowly administered all this time. And nowhere is this manipulation more apparent than in the rise of AI. The dirty bandage on the wound. I mean, companies aren't even trying to hide that they literally want to sell you a friend. Someone who listens, responds, and sends you into psychosis. That's what friends are for. The sad thing is, there's actually a lot of demand for this sort of thing. Unlike what Google and OpenAI or whoever would have you believe, most people aren't using AI to hide how lazy and thoughtless they are. I mean, a lot of them are, but no. The most common use of AI at the moment is for therapy. Horrible therapy that has no humanity to it and has proven itself to be dangerous, but a lot of people feel like they have no one else to confide in. And that's terrible. There are so many long-standing problems all converging at once into our current world. It's insane. And I could go on and on about all of this, but I exceeded my negativity quota several minutes ago, and I think we all need a brain break from that. What's helped me to feel less overwhelmed at times is learning that despite how it feels, none of these issues are completely new. Same gunk, different gamer, you know?
Oh no!
The world isn't ending, it's changing. It's been bad before, and it's been good before, but it's always changing. And a better world is possible for all of us. But like, Jacadamia, how does that relate to us drawing pictures or singing songs? Why have you been smacking your gob for the past 10 minutes about all this really cool and insightful woke societal nonsense? Well, I'm getting to that, so shush. A lot of times, when positive change feels impossible, we wonder if creating things, having fun, and expressing ourselves is worth it, or if we should even allow ourselves some levity in the face of adversity, like it's somehow irresponsible to. But I'm here to tell you why those feelings are stupid and wrong. In the war on division, creativity is one of the strongest weapons we have, and it isn't something you need to be born with. It exists in countless forms and can be discovered and nurtured in just about anybody. And I'm not just talking about art. Sure, drawing and music may come to mind first for most people, but there's so much more that being creative encompasses. It can be crocheting, gardening, dancing, cooking, even the not gay stuff, like sports. Whoa. To me, creativity can exist in anything that requires both self-reflection and expression. It's one of the only things I can think of that has the power to extend your sense of connection inward and outward. Let's walk through the necessary steps to be creative in art, and maybe you'll see what I mean. This is you. I drew you cute as a thanks for watching this far. You've got a piece of paper and a pencil and little grabbers to use them. But before you can start making something, you need to search within. What do I want to draw? What do I like? Is there something I'd like to say? All my feelings. Even if we have kids, it'll fix us. Each time you ask yourself questions like this, it might seem insignificant, but you're actually engaging and strengthening your sense of self. You're connecting with you. Once that's begun, you can then start laying lines down. And the way you do this becomes your way of expressing the self you're connecting to. It's not easy, and you might wind up getting frustrated and walking away at times. But each stroke is a step towards success. And by the time you're done, maybe you'll feel some sense of accomplishment. You should. You put yourself through a tiny trial to create something. Even if it's not what you expected, you made it exist. You basically gave birth. Mazel tov. Now clean that up, that's disgusting. Eventually, you can even share your self baby if you'd like. It's a step that requires a level of vulnerability necessary to do that thing I've been talking about. Hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. Being vulnerable with others is what leads to real, genuine connections even becoming a possibility. Once you share your art, you've put a piece of yourself out there for other people to connect with, and in turn, connect with you in some way. Maybe your art exposes people to different perspectives, cultures, and experiences that they may have never considered otherwise. Maybe it makes people laugh and form their own connections with each other because of it. Or maybe it makes someone deep in isolation realize they're not alone. This is what stuff like AI completely misses about art and human creativity. Its value doesn't come from technical prowess. It comes from us and the connections it forms between real people across time and space. When we engage with ourselves and the world from a creative lens, all sorts of cool things can happen. You know how I know that? Because I've lived it, bitch! Making art online and offline has completely changed my life. For the better, probably. I don't know, I'm still living it. When I started this channel, Jacadamia, I was living inside of a shell. There were times I would poke out a few people I would open up to a little, but I kept most of myself to myself. And I mean it. I was so restricted in who I allowed myself to be and be perceived as that back in high school, I didn't even share what music I liked with the person I was dating until like 5 months into our relationship. I hated the parts of myself that I thought other people would judge. And I'm a freaking weirdo, so in my mind, there was a lot to judge and a lot to hide. I kind of skirted through a lot of my life, always feeling like I was at arm's length with everyone I met. But like, arm's length. Like, whoa. So my hope for Jacadamia was that maybe if I could open myself up online, where what you put on it is forever, I wouldn't be able to hide anymore. I could bridge that gap in my life, stop living through 50 layers of irony, and I could find connection. Maybe I could even be the kind of person for others that I needed as a teen. Now, compared to who I was when I started in 2016, I'm wildly different. I went from pretending like I didn't know the names of Pokemon like Spoink to lamenting over the state of narratives in Sonic the Hedgehog in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I've connected with other artists and friends that I'm glad I get to share my life with. I've pushed myself to make more things, see more places. I worked on a game jam, flew out to conventions, and started accepting the parts of myself that I used to pretend weren't there. My self-confidence went from a flimsy mask I hoped no one would remove to a tempered core that no one could. And that's just how I was affected. Other people have told me they made their own friends or even started dating because they had crossed paths thanks to a video I uploaded or a piece of art I posted. And that's crazy. That hurts my head to think about. But it's true. Expressing myself creatively was only a single part of a chain reaction that butterfly affected into all sorts of connections being formed. But it was a necessary part. Reflecting on this made me realize that the more people there are that choose to say something, to share themselves and their stories, the better the world will be. Maybe people won't always make the greatest things, but overall, the more creativity we have, the more connections we form. I think it's a net positive. I'm not saying you need to go and become a YouTuber or share your entire life story on social media. That's definitely not for everyone. But if you start by sharing yourself with the people around you, or just one person, hell, even if you don't share at all yet, you've connected with yourself, you've made something, and the world is brighter for it. And hey, if you do want to post stuff online, allow me to unveil one potential place to get started on your creative quest, today's sponsor, Unveil. Man, I don't know. I feel like the internet sucks now because of everything you mentioned in the first half of this video. Why would this be any different? Well, I don't know where you came from, but Unveil is an online space actively committed to being 100% AI free and specifically for creatives. Whether you're an artist, writer, character creator, storyteller, or whatever. Run by a small team of diverse creatives, Unveil was built for you. Okay, but what do you do there? You can explore and create your own character pages, fill up galleries with art of your original characters, write out lore, traits, and stories, and then keep them all neatly organized within your own user-created worlds. You can even collaborate with others to make art, roleplay, and create stories in shared worlds. Just imagine making a whole universe with your friends and their characters, living together, fighting tooth and nail, falling in love. Sounds like a lot of power. It is. But it's not yours alone. With over 250,000 users and counting, you'll find all sorts of people to connect with and millions of creations to discover. With Unveil's question of the day, you can learn about other users' characters in a flash, or flesh out your own. With a naturally warm and welcoming atmosphere, nearly all creations get commented on and favorited. So Unveil actually feels alive. Eat your heart out, dead internet theory. Well, I'm convinced. If I was a real person and not a metaphorical stand-in, Unveil would get my vote. It's not an election, but yeah, check out Unveil for free today using my link in the description. So what am I really getting at here? Why is making stuff this big important thing? I mean, of course there are other ways to connect with people, but I think creativity is unique in that it takes power away from the core of what makes modern society so depressing. See, when billionaires see really cool art and the bonds of friendship, they actually have a severe allergic reaction that causes them to undergo a Grinchian transformation. Their heart gets fat, they give away all their money, and then they subscribe to Jacadamia on YouTube.com like all good philanthropists do. Now, obviously billionaires will always suck, but they get a lot of their power from our desire to consume. And it's not our fault that America's whole thing is consumerism, but I think we can help change that. The more we can shift back from consuming to creating, to getting the connection and expression we desire from what we do instead of what we buy or watch, the less we'll be at the mercy of these larger powers that want to sway us in their direction, into being reliant on them, away from our friends and families and into their sweaty money holes. Just look at Sonic, for example. Yes, I'm bringing Sonic into this. When Sonic Team kept putting out stinker after stinker after stinker, did Sonic fans just sit idly by and say, oh well, I guess Sonic just doesn't shower anymore? No! They stepped up and said, okay, Sonic Team, you guys can keep doing whatever it is you're doing. We're gonna make Sonic good ourselves. The Sonic fandom is notorious for making the most fan games out of any subculture out there. And a lot of them are bursting with more love, passion, and creativity than anything Sega's put out in forever. Sonic fans don't need to gobble up every little glob Sega puts out to fill the hedgehog-shaped hole in their hearts. They've been corking that up for years, and it's probably spurred Sonic Team into giving more of an effort lately. That's why I believe creativity is so important. In a time when it feels like we're powerless to fight against swaths of propaganda, surveillance, and isolation, every act of creation takes power back, no matter how small or trivial it might seem. So, that's my piece. Things have been rough. I've had trouble wrestling my own apathy and finding the will to make art, even with all the success I've had so far. But I want to keep going. I want to have fun making things for the rest of my life. And I want to believe it's important, that it matters. That's why I've been drilling this all in, to remind myself that it does. Art's not the end-all, be-all solution to the world's problems, of course, but our creative spirit is a vital part of what makes us human. It connects us in a way nothing else can, and it's just so freaking cool. Like, yes, please show me your Pokesona. You wrote a poem? That's like ancient magic. Nice game plan, sports person. Gosh, your Guatemalan grandma gave you this goulash recipe? Groovy. When we make things, when we listen to our inner voice and do things on our own, we create our own meaning and sense of self-worth. Something way deeper and more valuable than anything you could ever buy or get out of a chatbot. We can form connections wholly sustained by ourselves, not reliant on what shows we watch or brands we wear. When more people feel empowered to do that, to create more than we consume, I think a lot of life would just be better. Even if you don't buy my whole societal spiel on how it helps the world, I like seeing what people make. Make things for me if no one else. I don't care. Let me be greedy. But please, take care of yourself first and foremost. If you really can't bring yourself to create right now, it's fine to take the back seat and cheer others on while you rest. Share your friends' art, go out to see a local band, or just leave a comment telling someone you like what they do. I read like 99% of the comments I get from you all, and most of the time, they keep me going. Most of the time. Sometimes they hurt me physically. No matter what the future brings, there's always going to be another battle, and times when it seems like the morning is nowhere in sight. But art? That's our fuel. That's what powers the indomitable human spirit that I somehow know a lot about, despite being a furry little nut thing. I like art. What? I do it. I made this costume by hand. Took me 3 weeks straight, but like, whatever. It's whatever. No. It's awesome. But, what? It's beautiful. You think you could tell that to my wife? Yeah, okay.